When did you get to the point when you realised we don't need our teaching jobs anymore, we want to quit?
Teaching for me became suffocating.
Why don't they teach kids about money in schools?
The whole system is set up as a control system.
Actually, schools do lack very much.
I thought I was stupid at school because it was like, if you don't do well in your exams, then you're not very smart, you won't go very far.
Do you know what you're doing now, helping others get financially free? I would love to go back and teach again with somebody who really benefit from what I'm teaching. We've sold over the last 3 and a bit years, 53 deals. It's generated £240,000 worth of income.
Showing other people that actually somebody without any property background can actually be successful.
There are all sorts of ways of making money, but just get started.
Congratulations on your massive success in property.
Thank you.
You guys are background as teachers. When did you get to the point when you realised we don't need our teaching jobs anymore, we want to quit?
For me, it was about 2 years ago originally, and I did have my notice in from teaching, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then it was a case of, I think I better go back, and the school wanted me back, so I went back.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. I did another 2 years, and now I have handed my notice in, and I finished.
So now it's like, you're done now.
I'm done.
Forever.
Forever.
What about you, Jeremy? How long have you been quit?
It was always a means to an end, teaching for me. I always knew it. Property is it's something that's been burning since I can remember. I went to university because my mum really wanted me to go. I went into teaching because everybody else seemed to be going into teaching. And at that time I had no real science behind me as far as property goes. So I taught, and there's elements of it I really enjoyed.
And you're very good at it. You're a very good teacher. In fact, when I first met you and you were at the deal finding extravaganza and doing deals, I remember that once you'd booked your viewings and you'd had your success, naturally you'd then go and find someone that's struggling. And I remember thinking, I want these guys to not only become property millionaires and absolutely kill it, but I want them to help me down the line at giving back. And that's exactly what's happening now.
It's really interesting you say that because we both talk about this and you become teachers for a reason. It's a buzz.
Yeah.
It's actually a buzz. But teaching for me became, it was almost suffocating. It was the system that was the suffocation. And
totally.
You're expected to go up the ranks and they take more on and whatever.
Here's a question. Why don't they teach kids about money in schools?
That is a really, really good question. I've certainly realised that now since I've started on this route, that actually schools do lack very much. And pupils still believe firmly that they need to educate themselves, get a job, and then retire and
I thought I was stupid at school because it was like, if you don't do well in your exams, then you're not very smart, you won't go very far. And there's only one teacher, Mrs. Haysmith, that used to follow me around the school saying, you're going to be so successful. Like, she saw the fire, but most people don't see the fire.
No.
But isn't that true about all sorts? You know, you can be gifted and talented at sports, or you can be gifted and talented at stage or art or whatever. And I remember kids coming up to me, or when we've left school, yeah, sir, I'm thick. And they labelled themselves as not successful because they couldn't pass GCSEs or A-levels, or they were dyslexic. And, you know, the whole system is set up, and I understand why it is. It's a control system. Do you know, it's also, for me in education, it was all about success or failure, rather than, okay, well done, or, do you know what, you haven't quite got that right, how could you do it differently? And actually really build. And in property, that's one of the biggest things that we've learned. Do you know, we talked about that portfolio that, do you know, we talked about before, and that was nip and tuck, nip and tuck, nip and tuck for 12 months.
On your first property sale, when you packaged something and sold it, how much did you make? Profit?
I can remember the very first property, and do you know, we brought in £3,500, or it generated £3,500. Fell through the next day.
Shame.
Sold it again for £4,000 this time. Do you know, and that ended up falling through as well.
Oh, geez. What was it?
The vendor went to Thailand, and we never. Not the vendor. Sorry, the buyer went to went to Thailand.
And you lost
never
the
seen
money?
him again. No.
No, do you know that went through? He disappeared. Do you know the sale fell through in the end?
But did you get the money though still?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he paid you £4,000, then went to Thailand, and you never heard from him again?
Yeah, and under the terms and conditions, this was like 3, 4, 5 months, do you know, down the line. But cut a long story short, Sam, that's not the most bizarre thing about that property. The vendor Then said, right, I've had it with investors. I'm going to put it on the market. I'm going to do an online agent, one of the online agents. Cut long story short, 10 months he came back to me and he said, I still can't shift this property. And it's a 5-bedroom HMO with grandfather rights. And in our area, grandfather rights are worth a fortune. And we ended up getting that property on a lease purchase agreement.
That was our first one, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you got it on a purchase lease option agreement?
Yeah, we agreed a price in 4 years. So we didn't have the option. We knew that was going to be right.
And have you bought it now then?
We're just about to go through. We'll look at the investor finance on that one. It's now valued at 150. And we purchased at 92.
Oh my goodness. So in your first lease option agreement, that's £60,000
Yep.
uplift. Yeah. And is it cash flowing as well?
It cash flows really well. So the rents, the turnover is about 2-3, something like that. So it probably earns us cash flow 1,100 quid a month.
That's incredible. What a deal. You've done a lot of deals though. And you've what about that portfolio you packaged and sold? How much profit did you make on that?
That actually generated £65,000 on that one.
Why would you even be thinking about your teacher job when you just sold a deal and made 65 grand?
It was really early days, I think, and it was almost a disbelief, wasn't it? You went to Grimsby, stayed in an Airbnb, met the owner of the Airbnb because your telly had broken. Yeah. And he said, you told him that you were a property investor because that's what you have to do.
Some chap told me on the academy I should be saying that.
Yeah. So, and then you phoned me and said, this guy wants me to sell a house, one of his houses. Yeah. And then by the end of the weekend, after you'd had breakfast, he's got 17 houses he wants me to sell. What are we going to do?
I'm always into elevating myself, so I took him to Wetherspoons.
Yeah. So that was it. You came back with this portfolio of 17 properties to sell. Yeah. And it was very early days, wasn't it? Yeah. And it's a classic case of
Would you say that's mostly what you've done? Have you mostly been selling deals or have you been buying deals?
Selling deals to start with, very much.
So you took us on the first mentor session and, you're looking at talking to me about net worth. We had a massive negative net worth. We both come out of different marriages and, we were really struggling. We'd given up homes and, we were renting. And actually, starting that whole process was really tough because we needed... Yeah, I didn't even know what a deal sourcer was until the first session we had in Birmingham. And you said, I've just looked at your figures. Yeah, you need to be deal sourced. You didn't say it with a snigger, but
inside.
I was like, "Damn, you broke."
That was it. Yeah.
I remember it was in Hill Hall. What was your net worth? Was it like minus something?
Minus thousands. And when let's talk to mentor. I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but when people come and say, "Oh, £12,000 academy, that's an awful lot," they don't see the value in that, and I didn't at that time. I really did. I could only see £12,000 as £12,000, and I know we'd mentioned at that starting point, and I hear people starting off on the academy saying, "Oh, as long as I make back what I've put into it," and that's such a broke mindset, which I had. I'm not being disrespectful to other people, but I was there as well at that starting point. So to your question, we carry on. We've sold over the last 3 and a bit years, 54 deals now. And it's generated £240,000 worth of income. And, we've loved every second of it. But for me, I've always wanted to be putting back into property. Yeah. I love it. And it comes from my grandfather. And I just, it's passive income. Yeah. Deal sourcing is active income. Correct. And even if you get to a stage where you've systemised it and processed it enough. So we only work on a bespoke service now. And, sales didn't come naturally to me. I had to work flipping hard at getting selling off a list. And when I watch you sell live in front of an audience, I think, I take my hat off to you. And you talk about Grant Cardone, Sell or Be Sold, and the Closer's Almanac and all the rest of it. And I've listened and I've got better. I came from a network marketing business, but I think teachers find sales naturally difficult.
Yeah. Oh, very, very difficult. And I don't understand why, because it is you are so open with communication and talking to parents, talking to children, talking to colleagues, and it is very, very bizarre.
It's a different world, though, isn't it?
It's a completely different world, and it's been such an eye-opener.
I'll tell you something interesting about me. When I was deciding what school with my wife to send my kids to, this sounds really bad, but when I go into a school, it makes me feel ill.
Really?
I just need to get out. Yeah. And I kind of feel like, I can't believe I'm sending my kids to a prison. Where if I'm there for 5 minutes, I'm just like, I start being rude. and I start being, I'm just like, it just reminds me of when I was at school and I want to get out. It's such a strange thing. I'm sure the problem's with me somewhere.
Well, it's an emotional response.
It's negative emotions, isn't it? Yeah.
At school, obviously.
And that's really sad.
Yeah.
And do you know what you're doing now of helping others get financially free? Do you know, I said to Ginny, I would love to go back and teach again, but with somebody who really wants and would benefit from what I'm teaching.
And don't get me wrong, I'll go into schools. I've been into schools and I've taught financial literacy and stuff in schools in London, and that's different because I'm loving it. But when I was just going around and they were showing me the different classrooms, I was just like hating it. And we just built a school, in Uganda. I'm going in about 6 weeks, so I am massively for education. But I just think there's something about the culture of state schools.
Well, you said that was the question of why don't they teach it in schools? And you know, I think I realised I was part of a system that, you know, one is archaic. Do you know? And I think, and I'm not political, but do you know, I understand that everybody needs a basic form of education and actually developed communities and economies. You need to have educated people, and some people thrive in that. I'm not knocking those people. And my daughter, so she's doing a maths degree at the moment. She said, Dad, I know you're doing property, but do you know, I don't want to run a business. I said, you don't have to run a business. If you want to carry on being employed, just make your money work for you and actually learn what passive income is and actually learn what an asset is.
You know, you've been very successful in property. What was it that made you want to come back and help the academy as a mentor?
It's the sharing, isn't it? It's a sharing of information and knowledge. And I think I've come from a very traditional background of going through education, learning how to be a teacher, going and being a teacher for 28 years. And it's been a very, very traditional route.
I can't believe 28 years.
And I know. And I think for me, it's about showing other people that actually somebody from a very, very traditional background, without any property background, can actually be successful in that field. And that's really massive. And I think that's how I want my kids to see me is, you know, my mum's gone mad, what's she doing now? But actually to show them that there is a very, very different way. And hopefully then that's something which can be passed to others.
So have you bought a lot of property then?
You go.
Yes.
You go. Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. And it's
What you bought? Tell me, talk us through it.
It's building. So this is the 4th year in since the academy.
Yeah.
And the first year was all about education and finding 13 patches, which was ridiculous because we live in Cornwall. Yeah. So Ginny's come up from Cornwall to your place today and I'd come down from Cleethorpes. And do you know, it's a lot of time.
You don't live in Cleethorpes, so you've got your office there.
Well, we've got a base there, which is really important. Do you know, we've got offices there and, do you know, that's the side that we're developing and really excited about coming on to. But as far as property goes, in the first year, and I still remember something you said, because when you started, you had a guarantor for your first place.
Yeah.
But then there was a couple of slow years, wasn't there, before you really got going, I believe, where it was about you managing other... And it's been very similar for us.
Yeah, my second year in property, I didn't buy a single thing.
Well, there you go. We had some highly leveraged property in Cornwall still. So we had 4 single lets. In fact, 5 single lets. Yeah. And that's what we started with, which was producing a basic...
What year did you buy those?
So I bought 2008 was the 4 flats that we've got. Right. And 1992, I think, was that.
Wow. So you've been in property since I was 1.
Yeah, thanks.
That's why you are...
Slow burners.
But that's why I'm happy to have you guys come back and mentor, because you've been in the game for 30 years. 5 years ago, you were not making loads of money, but you still had experience of being a landlord, having tenants, you had a little portfolio. Yeah. Now, you've obviously taken things to a whole new level.
But those properties were so highly leveraged at that time. And it was the classic, I guess, typical landlord who gets sort of 1, 2 or 3 properties, trying to manage it themselves and, you know, with no science behind it. So we continued to do that while we were on the academy. And, you know, I said to Ginny, we've got to get into these HMOs. So even though we were deal sourcing, because you told me I had to, I'll still hold you to that.
For cash flow.
For cash flow.
Because property's slow. Yeah. Takes time to even buy a house. Yeah. Yeah. So you need, if you're building up your portfolio, you need something now that's going to bring you in that fast pound.
Definitely.
So the second year, we realised that we had an HMO, but we just weren't renting it as an HMO in Cornwall. And, you know, the experience of actually getting that one compliant and going through and refurbing it to a reasonable level down there. And that's the one who cash flows really nicely for us down in Cornwall now. But that experience is, and I say this to mentees all the time, you've got to get out. There are all sorts of ways of making money, but just get started. Just get started on one thing and start watching that passive.
So true, because you can get paralysis by analysis, can't you? Where you think, should I do this or this or this or this?
Absolutely, and I think we're classic cases of that, aren't we? Spend so much time thinking about it, and it all needs to be perfect.
Tell me though, Jenny, because you've bought some amazing houses, and we want to know what they are. So what have you been buying? Because you've got some really exciting stuff on here that you bought.
And we've just had 2 that are now up and running in Cleethorpes that were bought with investor finance, 2 really high-end HMOs, 6 beds, 6 en suites, really high spec. In fact, I think the valuer who came round actually said it was one of the best that he'd seen in that area for a long, long time.
So
and it is
things,
really good. Yeah, it's really impressive. And that's what I've loved, is
So
actually seeing the end result.
Did you put any of your own money in or not?
No. No.
That's the way to do it. So 2 big HMOs, 0 money down, investors finance.
Yeah.
How much are they cash flowing between the 2 of them?
Between the 2 of them,
The portfolio at the moment is cash flowing between 9 and 10, isn't it? £1,000 a month. And do you know, the turnover on that is around £15,000. And that's part of it. So
that's the whole lot, isn't it?
Yeah,
the
without
Cornwall
picking.
lot.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on a buy, refurbish, refinance model. And, you know, that's, like I said, in our area, the building regs are really tight. And it's put a lot of investors off. But actually, when you actually understand it and unpick it, you know, working on commercial valuations. So the one I think you were talking about was the last but one, wasn't it? Where we bought it at 140. You know, we put in, I think that, because refurbs have gone up, I'm sure you'll find it at your place, and it's ridiculous the amount they've gone up. But we refurbed at 83, which it was a beautiful Victorian house.
Lovely.
We put that in, and it refinanced on a commercial valuation at 275.
Yeah.
So I think we got out more or less everything by 15,000.
Yeah.
And that's the day before the valuation, the NHS trust in the local area, which is providing quality housing for overseas nurses and doctors. Do you know, they took the whole property on a 6-month agreement, and they agreed I think the rent was 3,700, something like that a month.
Yeah.
So that just took it straight off our hands. And obviously the valuer, he couldn't argue with that. There's £3,700 coming into that account.
Yeah, commercial valuation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've taken that on, and the latest one is in an area in Cleethorpes, which we know the rental demand's there. And I mean, you said about the business, our offices. For me, I really needed to get confidence in the market with the rental demand. And you know, it sounds cheesy, but you know, we worked well with an HMO manager when we first started there in year 1, when the portfolio was going through. Now, we've stayed in touch. He was a sophisticated investor, he was educated, and he's a hotelier and a serviced accommodation portfolio and rent-to-rents, and had been through the education process. And he's the one that we've ended up now merging the company. So we're going to be buying shares in his company, Apex PV, up in Cleethorpes. And that provides an end-to-end hands-free service for investors. And I mean, you've had lettings businesses, haven't you?
Yeah.
And they're very, very active, aren't they?
Very active. Yeah.
And we found that, and you know, that's deflected us. So it's almost a lost leader that we know back to domination in an area. When you get your signboards up, you know, you have a presence in the area, and you match it with social media, and you bring it. So for us, that was a really important thing to actually get. So the last sort of 12 to 18 months, it has been put in the processes, because we manage a few properties in Cornwall, which we're merging all into this one company.
Let me ask you a question, right? If you're making £9,000 a month passive income from all your properties, that's over £100,000 a year. Why would you not just retire, chill out, live on a beach, and never do anything ever again work related? Why are you around my house right now? Why are you coming to the event still? Why are you doing mentoring calls and trying to still dominate areas? I mean, you've quit your jobs. You don't need to work. Where's the desire?
Got more to do. Got lots more to do. I feel like we've just started, really, and for me now, it's it's really about building the wealth, establishing the wealth, building the legacy, and seeing what we actually can achieve within the next 4 years. And that's what we've...
And you've been going about 4 or 5 years hardcore.
Yeah.
It has been full on.
We've got another 4 years.
That's the thing, when you've got that...
Well, you know what though, in 4 years, in 4 years to go, if you're planning on retiring in 4 years, maybe you might have the portfolio to 20 grand a month or 50 grand a month. I guarantee you will not retire in 4 years.
Well, I never said retire.
The reason I ask that question is because that's what people ask me all the time. People say to me, why do you... Yeah, or why don't you... Even if you just systemise the training business and get Ricky and the team to run it, like, why do you continue to work? And I think my thinking is on this is because you're not truly happy unless you're progressing. True fulfillment. People always think, I just want to lie on a beach and do nothing, but actually that's boring. So for me, it's like I want to be continually building and doing stuff and also giving back and helping people and fulfilling people, but it's just people ask me, and also people ask me, why do you use other people's money when you're wealthy and you could use your own money? What would you say to that one? Because you don't need to borrow other people's money now. You are at a point where you could use your own money.
But why would you use the bank's money? Do you know, it's about leverage, isn't it? And do you know, for us going forwards, I've got really big plans. I had to muzzle myself when you were talking then, because I've had this realisation that I've done myself for a long time, and actually burning inside was always this, creating this, and it is the end-to-end hands-free. And to start with, I think people say, you just want to make money all the step of the way. Yeah, we will make money every step of the way, but we'll also help a shed load of people that will come to Grimsby and Cleethorpes without the confidence in the market. And I can show you the confidence in the markets because we've got a 95% occupancy rate across our portfolio in that area. So we give them confidence to put the money back into that area. Housing stock in the area improves. Do you know, the council's happy. We work really closely with the council and they're very proactive. And the housing enforcement team up there, do you know, they love it when people are putting back quality, compliant property. And that's what we want to do and make a name for. And actually, it's like your training business. Do you know, if you create the entity where it's working and you can be a focal point in 4 years' time, I just want to be doing something different. I want to set that one up and keep it moving. I don't know what else we could do in 4 years' time. Our business partner's a little bit older, do you know, and we've signed heads of terms now for in 4 years' time, there will be an exit, whether we sell or whether somebody takes over or buys the shares or what.
But then you'll do the next thing. You won't just relax at home, I bet.
No, I don't think we will. And for me, that's what it's about. It's almost now I've made this leap of faith. And I really, really want to see how far I can go, or we can go within that 4 years. And that's what's really exciting, because it's something so different to everything that I've done before.
I felt a weight, Samuel, because it's been me banging on to start with, oh my God, I can see this, and you know, buy low, rent high, and we've got to start this. And Ginny's come alive, and it's awesome because we're partners and also business partners, and there's stresses, and we're also very different. You know, we talk about the wealth dynamics that you showed us. Oh, what an awesome tool, because you can work out who else you need in your team to actually, and I realised, no, you just can't dominate on your own. You need other people around you, whether you employ them or whatever. But Ginny and I worked out sometimes there's friction, because we're coming from two different sides. We're thinking about the same problem in two different ways.
How often do you spend in Cleethorpes, Ginny?
Well, I haven't very much up until now, because obviously I've been committed with my job in Cornwall. So I haven't spent a massive amount of time there. I've been up a few times, and it will be more now. Now I've got that freedom.
Do you own the office in Cleethorpes or do you rent it?
We're renting, but we've got 4 conveying at the moment, and one is a 3-storey office block, ex-council block. So they've gone through and made the place amazing. All the tech is in, you know. So that's conveying at the moment, and we'll take over the ground floor of that one. So we'll own that property through the business. And then the top 2 floors have got planning for 4 2-bed apartments. So it's the first kind of commercial to residential venture as well. And it's things like that when, I know we laughed about the dominate, but if you put yourself out as a presence, people come to you with the deals. And that's the fantastic bit at the moment.
What do you think about people that say that there's a housing crisis at the moment, and people like us buying lots of houses, pushing prices up? Yes, we're making loads of money, but it's not ethical.
That's a really tough question.
No, I don't see the argument in that, because you know, you're creating value in properties and doing areas. So there's areas in Grimsby and Cleethorpes that are really tough.
Ginny almost quit then on the spot. She was like, that's a good one. Right, selling everything.
Yeah, that's it. I hadn't thought of that.
But there's areas in Grimsby and Cleethorpes that are tough, same as anywhere. But we're adding massive value. We're creating compliant housing.
Yeah.
Rents are going up anyway. Do you know, everything's going up.
Here's what I would say about that as well. You're doing buy, refurbish, refinance, right? Mostly. So you are buying houses that are run down, that have been run down for years probably. Yeah. By turning that into a house, you're actually bringing the price of rent down and making houses more affordable because you're bringing new supply onto the market, and now tenants have got more choice. So you're actually balancing the market out. So you're not going to quit.
The Academy for us was well, for me certainly, was a massive eye-opener to the possibilities within property. And I remember Jeremy had gone to a crash course, came back and said, I really would like you to come to a crash course. So I came along, not really sure what to expect. And this probably sounds a little bit over the top, but I can honestly remember being completely and utterly gobsmacked about how amazing it was from the minute we walked in the door, in 3 days, or two full days, was it at that time? And just thinking, this is mind-blowing. And I was so impressed by you. So for me, it was massively inspirational, and it was almost, we've got to do this. This is definitely an opportunity for us now, because we were starting afresh and looking for new things. And yeah, it was massively educational, inspirational, met some fantastic people, and started to develop a really, really good base to sort of develop our property knowledge from.
I feel like as well with the Academy, I feel like we've improved a lot over the last 4 years. Like I think now, you'll know because you're still part of the Academy, the support and the structure and everything I think is better than it was. And I think
Much
it
more
was
slick,
amazing.
yes.
But now it's even better, which is good because it would be easy as we grow and as my brand and my business and my reputation grows, I get more views, more followers. It'll be easy for the Academy just to become like diluted, but I think it's actually got stronger and better and richer. Another thing I want to ask you guys is, you got started on the Academy in 2018. The following year, I got a lot of hate online, and you guys will probably remember press, all kinds of stuff. And you guys stood with me through all that. And there was a lot of people that didn't. There was a lot of people that wanted to distance themselves.
All I could say to anybody that came to us was about our experience. And I continue with that with the mentors. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm giving you my experience. And for the 12 months, it was exactly what we needed, formatted in the right way at the right time. And do you know, I've got nothing but praise for what we received during that 12 months. And do you know, I don't know the ins and outs of the people that were hating that, and there was a lot of publicity about it. But if I bring it back, you can only control what you can control in your own little environment. Yeah. And for us, the money that we put into that academy was, we've now got friends for life, but business associates for life. And do you know, there are people from that academy now that we still work with. And do you know, you've set up something which you can take advantage of or not. That's your choice, which is the education, massive action bit. So from us, hand on heart, and that's to anybody listening, do you know what we received during that academy was exactly what we needed.
Yeah, totally.
But we also made that work as well by taking the action.
What were your friends, family, when you said to them, I just registered for the academy, put it on a credit card, and we're going to...
I didn't tell my family.
Did you not tell them that bit? I didn't know that, by the way, at the time. But
and I definitely don't recommend that.
No, and we don't encourage that. But the question is, your friends and family, did you have a positive, a negative, or a mixed response when you told them that you were wanting to step into property in the way that you were?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a negative response.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it was a positive response either. It was a very kind of neutral response to it. And I think probably giving up my job has provoked the most kind of concern and worry from parents and family and friends, rather than actually getting into property in the first instance and going through the education. I think that received a very neutral response, I would say.
Well, both your parents are employees, aren't they? Or have been employees?
Yeah.
And, do you know, for my dad, who was a policeman through and through, do you know, he retired at 48 on a full pension, and, do you know, he doesn't understand that size, and it's a risk. But I also understand why he sees that as a risk.
Do you not think that now, though, things have changed? Like, what worked 40 years ago, i.e. having a job, having a pension, putting money in the bank, buying a house, paying off the mortgage, that did work. Yeah. If, you know, 50 years ago, that was not a bad strategy. Now it's a terrible strategy. Yeah. So things have changed.
Absolutely, and I think that's why, and because we have started from scratch, that's why we are where we are doing what we're doing, isn't it? Because things need to be different in order for us to be successful and build our wealth.
Yeah, so you've gone from neutral to we've got 2 family members now that invest in our property.
Brilliant.
And I love it. I love that. But, you know, I realised how long I'd been trying to get their affirmation over the years that what I was doing was right. And it was a real awakening. So I've got 2 brothers, one invests in property around. And when they actually came in and JV'd and we set the company up and we did the property, and it ended up coming up, because I was still nervous, because, you know, things can change. But we'd done everything that we could do for the due diligence. But then with buy, refurbish, refinance, you are at the behest of a valuer. And ultimately the valuer came around and we'd invested in ourselves and created a valuation pack which will guide the valuer without slapping him around the face and saying this is it. And,
exactly.
And it was, seriously, it was almost comical, wasn't it? Because the valuer turned up, I was outside the property stalling him while Ginny was printing out this document and John was turning up behind. Cut a long story short, we got what we needed. And, do you know, my brother and my mum is, and, do you know, they were absolutely tickle pink with it. And the biggest thing as well, it's got this garage on the back of this property, Victorian property, which is like a small sports hall. And so we've got planning permission going through and at the back now to convert that into flats. And, incredible. But that's the legacy bit. And I want to be able to create some passive income for my mum. And, you know, at this stage of life for her, it would be awesome. And so my brother was stalking me. So one of my brothers was stalking me on social media and checking out what we're doing. He said, "Oh, can I come up and have a look at?" And now he's involved. So that was an awesome
I think the only way to win over your sceptical friends and family is to show them your results.
I think definitely. And I think that will come for me now, definitely. Now I've made the jump, now I'm in the business, now we're actually starting to really see the fruits of our labour.
How's life changed?
Well, I tell you what, for 3 years it has been graft. It has been hard graft, but it's one of those. And I think I said to you, you wake up in the morning and, do you know what? Let's bring it on. Let's see what the day comes with. And I think for us now, we do want to start protecting time. And I think you've just come back from a nice holiday, and, you know, we've got one booked in September, and, you know, we can do that without worrying about, you know, where we were before. And certainly we're going to continue to work hard. We've got the 4-year plan, but it's freeing us up. There's a lot of travelling. We do a lot of travelling from the choices that we make.
I think at the moment we have got a time ahead of us, which is going to be really intense in terms of graft and being completely active and actually working very, very hard. We live in opposite ends of the country a lot of the time, and that's a shift in our lifestyle at the moment. But we kind of know that we've got a long-term plan. Yeah. We need to be really careful that we enjoy things along the way and not get too wrapped up in just the success of the business. We need to make sure that we enjoy life as we go and celebrate successes.
That's part of what this was. This was like time stamping where you're at.
Well, we said about a tipping point, I think, earlier on. So in your first year, you were saying when you started at age 17 and then 18. Do you know? So we've got 4 properties conveying at the moment. So there's a pipeline of property and a pipeline of investors, and there's a tipping point. And of course, you've got to keep managing it. Yeah. But it's really exciting where it's going now. Yeah. So we've got 2 BMV flats that are going through, which we picked up at a very nice price there, which we know we can remortgage again in 12 months' time, and, you know, we'll get that money back out. And there's also a commercial unit on the back of a 4-bed HMO, which it's sat on the market because people just don't understand it. Uneducated people just don't understand it. So we've got a really good broker that we work with, and they said, we'll put that on a commercial loan and you can refinance that further down the line. And there's more and more of this happening now, which that's the really exciting thing for me.
Yeah, it's gathering pace, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think once we're all in it together, it will gather more pace.
Yeah, but it's not all about business. Do you know, the vision is to create a nice big home in Cornwall.
Yeah.
And do you know, we've got now our base up in our patch as well. So, do you know, that makes you part of the community. And do you know, I went out for a drink one evening, and do you know, there's people that are starting to recognise you. And you're that property guy, aren't you? Oh yeah, my aunt's just getting rid of her place, and do you know, and just how it works. But
well, you've done amazing, and I'm really pleased with your success, but also I'm really grateful for coming back into the community. And I always say, when you hit the mountaintops, you got to pull people up with you, and that's exactly what you're doing. So appreciate that, appreciate you, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you.